Hey, welcome to SI Now. It is Tuesday, March 21st, and I'm Maggie Gray.
And I'm Ryan Asselt. And joining us, special treat here, senior writer for Time Magazine, Sean Gregory is here to talk a lot of hoops, NCAA tournament. And Sean, right in the midst of March Madness, we got a lot going on. You have a story this week about maybe the most fascinating family in the big dance. That's the Ball family. Lonzo has UCLA headed to the Sweet 16 while his dad, LaVar, is building a brand around his son. Now, many have wondered if this violates any NCAA rules. The question here, you've looked into it deep with your story, Sean. Does it violate any rules here?
On the surface, technically, it appears so. Big Baller Brand is the name of the brand, and you're not supposed to use any your name or likeness. You can argue baller. It's pretty obvious, although technically, baller is different from ball. There's arguments. But the thing is that kind of puts it over the top is that his picture was on the website for most of this year. And then USC brought that up a few weeks ago. They took it down, and his name is on the website still. Lonzo Ball's name is on the website in the About Us section. And UCLA asked LaVar Ball, his father, to take that down. And LaVar basically said, no, I'm not doing it. Come get me. If it's a violation, it's a violation, because About Us. He has a lot of pride in his family. This is About Us. So by the letter of the law, I think Lonzo Ball is a walking NCAA violation, basically. But it appears that the NCAA has given UCLA a waiver on this, basically a pass. It's the family business. LaVar did start it before he got to UCLA. So it's a model going forward for other big high school stars to capitalize on their name and likeness while they have the chance. It's a really fascinating thing. It can have long-term implications.
Oh, absolutely. And Sean, the NCAA has been so stringent on these laws in the past. You've seen student athletes who have lost their scholarships for things of this nature. Here's what the NCAA and UCLA said. This was their official response. They said, while neither the NCAA nor UCLA will address details of a specific student-athlete situation, both are comfortable the appropriate measures have been taken to review the potential issues under NCAA rules and processes regarding Lonzo Ball. As is standard practice, both will continue to work together to monitor this matter. That is a bunch of jargon for we are punting on this big time. Why?
And the other thing that's interesting is, well, why is because it would cause a lot of stir if Lonzo Ball, one of the biggest stars in the NCAA tournament, was out. But another interesting thing about this is there's a hat on that website that says it's advertised as Bruins, BBB, Big Baller Brand. The logo is on the hat, and it has UCLA colors. We talked to a trademark lawyer who said UCLA has every right to fight that. Like if you or I tried to do that, advertise, Ryan, Maggie, Sean, with UCLA colors saying a Bruin style hat, they'd send us a cease and desist in a heartbeat. They're not sending a cease and desist to LaVar Ball on that hat, which brings up the question, is that like an extra benefit for LaVar Ball, the fact that they're letting this happen? LaVar says he's not paying UCLA royalties on that hat. So there's all kinds of oddities going on. And as you said, people have been punished for being a DJ, or a UCLA football player got punished years ago for taking free groceries, little stuff. And now LaVar's like, I'm selling my son, which goes against everything amateurism stands for, and they're letting it happen. And the other thing is NCAA's whole argument about amateurism is if these athletes are getting paid or do have brands and stuff, consumers will be turned off. People won't like it. Well, Lonzo Ball has a brand, basically has his own company, and people seem to be watching UCLA games.
Would they have to prove that Lonzo himself was profiting? Obviously, his dad is profiting, but the NCAA doesn't govern him, so they'd have to maybe prove that money was going into the pocket of Lonzo himself.
Right. They don't. By the bylaws, it doesn't even matter if he's getting the money. It's up to Lonzo to basically say, hey, you're using my name. So technically, when Lonzo's picture was on the site, by the laws, Lonzo's responsible for saying, hey, get that down, or UCLA is responsible for reporting, saying, hey, get that down. UCLA didn't do that until USC called, and Lonzo wasn't saying, hey, Dad, get my picture off the site.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned LaVar. You talked to him. This is what he had to say when basically he was asked about using Lonzo's image on the Big Baller Brand website. He said, violation or not, if it's really that serious, take my boy. I'll come get him right now. See if you can win the NCAA championship on your own. he basically is calling their bluff. Do you think it'd be different if this was football or another sport where one and dones aren't so prevalent? I mean, we know that Lonzo is leaving for the NBA after this. If he was going to stick around for another year or two, do you think that the NCAA would take it a little more seriously?
I think they would, and that goes to show the kind of just the inconsistency of enforcement, right? I mean, they're letting him get away with it a little bit, right? They know he's going to be gone, and so, all right, you know.
Although you have LaMelo and the third one all coming up
so
down
what's
the
going to
pipeline.
happen? Right, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So with LaMelo, he's coming next year. Are they going to do the same thing? Now, with all this attention, maybe LaMelo's, name is going to disappear from the site. But if I'm USC, if I'm a rival, by the way, I think we've been on record saying athletes should be able to compensate from their brands, right? So I want to be clear that we're not saying this is bad. Good for LaVar Ball for capitalizing in a way, but he's breaking the rules. I mean, the rules are here, and the problem with the rules being broken is that the enforcement is inconsistent. But at the same time, maybe NCAA is saying, all right, we're okay with this, so it opens up kind of a loophole for athletes in the future to kind of say, hey, if LaVar Ball can start his own company, why can't I?
Yeah, UCLA is in the tough spot. NCAA put it on them, and then LaVar Ball said, go ahead, UCLA, do something about it. Right. And obviously they're not going to, so interesting stuff.
Yeah,
Sean, you also wrote, of course, about Colin Kaepernick back in September for Time magazine. Well, this week President Trump mentioned Kaepernick in a rally in Louisville. Take a listen.
And your San Francisco quarterback, I'm sure nobody ever heard of him. I'm just reporting the news. There was an article today. I love to report the news, and then they said I made a mistake, right? I said, no, the people reporting the news made a mistake if it's wrong. But there was an article today, it was reported, that NFL owners don't want to pick him up because they don't want to get a nasty tweet from Donald Trump. Do you believe that?
Do we believe that? It's a really good question.
Yeah,
Maybe not
there
rhetorical.
are reports that teams are hesitant to sign him for many different reasons. But do you think what President Trump is saying is going to have any impact on his future in the NFL?
Well, surprisingly enough, President Trump didn't really to have the whole truth there. And that's, I mean, the report he was citing said that maybe somebody was speculating to Bleacher Report about how many owners or GMs are scared. And they said something like maybe 10% of owners are scared because they might get a nasty tweet from Donald Trump. So that's a speculation based on speculation. There's all kinds of speculation there. At the same time, yeah, I mean, it is signing Colin Kaepernick for some teams might be a political risk and might make people uncomfortable. There's no doubt about that. It's just, the president was at a rally it's still interesting how to connect with his base. He's going back to how, Colin Kaepernick is kind of the bad guy in his eyes for not standing. And so he continues to come. He goes to that for an applause line. So if anything, owners will look at that and say, there is a substantial amount of people out there who aren't comfortable with what Colin Kaepernick did and might not be comfortable with him on their roster.
Very interesting, Sean Gregory. Really appreciate your time,
problem.
perspective on a couple different topics. Yeah. LaVar Ball and, of course, Colin Kaepernick. We were just talking about LaVar. Everyone from Charles Barkley to Steve Kerr has criticized Lonzo's dad, but not the kid Mero. The co-host of Desus and Mero on Viceland TV has plenty of admiration for the family patriarch. Watch this.
Let me tell you something. LaVar Ball is an excellent father. I am also the father of 3 sons. Every time I see a LaVar Ball quote, I'm like, yo, listen, this makes perfect sense. And it's like I'm looking into the future. My man LaVar Ball said, and I quote, Magic got sons, Jordan got sons, Shaq got sons, Kareem got sons, and they all whack. Yo, if you're a father, you're not saying that, you're a bad father. LaVar Ball is the father of the year after me, actually. He's number 2, I'm number 1. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm watching myself grow, you know what I'm saying? Because when my 3 kids get to any level of any athletic scholar situation, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna be the best. And I'm gonna tell everybody they're the best. And I'm gonna have my own big baller brand. I'm gonna call it Mero Athletic, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna do it. It's gonna be bigger than Nike. Have confidence in your kids, bro. You know what I'm saying? I will take all the Ball children on the Knicks gladly. You know what I'm saying? Phil, make that happen. Especially the young dude that's shooting the half court, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't even know, what are they, LaMelo, Linguini, LaVar Burton. They out here, you know what I'm saying? And they're doing their thing. LaVar Ball, your father of the year, my guy. I'm with you all the way. Everybody's like, yo, this guy's ridiculous. He's nah, you're a great dad. Keep doing what you're doing.
The NCAA's women's tournament has reached the Sweet 16. Let's reset the bracket in 60 seconds. UConn is still rolling. After beating Albany and Syracuse, the Huskies have now rattled off 109 consecutive wins, 25 straight in the tourney. The last time they lost in March, President Obama was still in his first term. Their next unlucky opponent is 4-seeded UCLA. If anyone's going to challenge UConn, it might be fellow number 1 seed Baylor. In the first round, the Bears obliterated Texas Southern by 89 points, good for the largest margin of victory in women's tournament history. They follow that up with merely a 40-point smackdown of Cal. You want more records? Kelsey Plum's got more records. Washington's incandescent senior broke another one Monday night, dropping 38 against Oklahoma to set the mark for points in a season with 1,080. As usual, the women's bracket pretty much all chalk, except for tiny 12-seeded Quinnipiac and 10-seeded Oregon, who beat, of all teams, number 2-seeded Duke. Rough week for the Blue Devils. The Sweet 16 starts Friday. Happy watching.
All right, both the men's and women's NCAA tournaments are going to take a couple days off before kicking off their respective Sweet 16. So let's switch gears to the NBA now and welcome in Sports Illustrated's NBA reporter, Rohan Nadkarni. And Rohan, the Warriors, without Kevin Durant, they blow out the Thunder. They sweep the season series on Monday night against Oklahoma City. Game wasn't very competitive, but there were some fireworks here with Steph Curry getting into a shoving match with Samaj Kristen. Now, Russell Westbrook even got involved in this thing as well. Here's Draymond Green and Westbrook on the dust-up after the game.
Steph was pushed, trying to get this spot. He pushed back, and there it was.
Curry tried to get into it with Samaj, try to push him, and I stepped right between. And that's it. Once I see something going down with my teammates, I'm hopping in.
First of all, round of applause for Draymond Green for not being in this dust-up.
Yeah, he didn't get involved. And we'll get to Russ's shades a little later in the show, I think, because that's worth noting there. But, Rohan, what do you take from this? Steph, usually very composed on the basketball court, really was fired up and threw a full-fledged shove at Samaj there.
Yeah, I think this was great. Honestly, we've been wanting to see stuff like this. I think Russ and Steph, there's more bad blood there than people realize. I was kind of talking about this last night, but I'm a little happy that Kevin Durant wasn't playing in this game, only because it was kind of a showcase for Russ and Steph and kind of their rivalry. I don't think they like each other very much. We saw Russ, say, during the week in regards to Steph, who is he? Steph pick Harden over Russ for MVP. So I enjoyed it from a fan's perspective. It was a lot of fun to watch. I think Steph had the game last night where a lot of people have been talking about Russ this season as the best point guard in the NBA, arguably the MVP. Let's not forget who the reigning unanimous MVP was. It's Steph Curry. And even the TNT broadcasters last night, all three of them said they would pick Russ over Steph. One of the best players, maybe one of the top 3 players in the game is flying under the radar. And I think that came out from Steph a little bit last night.
That's interesting. I wonder if we'll ever get the real story on why Steph and Russ have some bad blood. Any thoughts onto why that is?
I think it really just comes from kind of their competitive spirit, right? Okay. They got head-to-head in the playoffs now. Last year, the 7-game series was really, big. I think it probably has to do just from that public kind of, I wouldn't say they've been pitted against each other, but, Russ has been loved now, as kind of like this cult favorite, whereas Steph has never really kind of gotten that love. People, from the moment he started, this amazing run he's been on, people have been looking for the day where his jump shot's not going to fall and he's not going to be that great player. So I think that kind of, the way they've been talked about in their careers has kind of fueled that fire between them.
And lost in all this, guys, Klay Thompson's the one who led the Warriors with the 34 points last
and he
night.
always
that
does,
was going
and he
on.
never comes off the floor. And, of course, the Warriors, they weren't resting players in the game Monday night, but they did rest 4 players against the Spurs 2 weeks ago. The Cavaliers rested their big 3 on Saturday night, and the commissioner, more likely the owners, are not pleased. Adam Silver sent a memo to all NBA owners saying that if teams do not properly notify the league and opposing teams that players are sitting out, they will receive, quote-unquote, significant penalties. Now, Rohan, a lot of motivations here by different parties. The owners are motivated by TV ratings, profitability, long term. The coaches and players, they want rest because they're motivated by winning titles this year. So how do you square this circle?
So I think at this point, kind of every NBA writer in the world has touched on this, but it's going to come down to scheduling. That's kind of the only thing the NBA has in its bag of tricks to kind of fix this situation. That Warriors situation there was their 8th game in 8 cities in 13 nights. That's just untenable for teams like Golden State. What's tricky for the league right now, and as ridiculous it sounds, but their 2 best teams play in Golden State and Cleveland. Golden State has to travel so much as it is being a West Coast team. When you add the primetime schedule, now they're traveling more. Cleveland, they're traveling more. It's all these little things that go into it, and it's easier said than done, much easier said than done. But they have to find a way to kind of schedule these primetime games in a way that teams are incentivized to play their players, and that means making sure they're not, a 3rd game in 4 nights or a back-to-back.
It's a fascinating debate to me, and because Adam Silver's hands are tied in a sense, he's starting to put this on the owners here, which seems like it's his only option, right? You got GMs and coaches saying, hey, my job is to win championships, and this is the best way for my team to be rested for the playoffs. So who does Silver go to? The GM and owners' bosses. Ultimately, it's going to go, the onus is on them to make the change or put it on our coaches to say which guys play and which guys don't at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting move. I think Adam Silver's a smart guy. That's something I didn't really think about, but the idea of making sure that owners are involved, because, who is it that's going to ultimately care about, if their TV ratings go down, if their deal isn't as big next time, it's the owner. So I think that's a smart move by Adam Silver. This is one of those situations where I think everything can be true. It can be true that it's upsetting for fans when they show up to a game and their favorite player isn't playing, but it's also true that if you're a coach, you have to have this championship in mind. So I don't think anyone's necessarily wrong in this situation, and hopefully the league can kind of figure out a way to rectify it.
I wish we had a camera on Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr's faces when they read this memo. It's like, no, your owner now is going to have a say in who you play on a March Saturday night game. I'm sure there was steam coming out of there.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes out. I mean, it seems like a simple solution, Maggie. Give the guys a day off before the game, the day off after the game. No back-to-backs. Save that primetime game, the Saturday night. Teams fall in line, hopefully, I guess, you'd hope.
I don't know, maybe you're incentivizing the bad teams to play better and the better teams get the better schedules as opposed to giving everyone kind of a similar bite of the apple.
Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, turning to some off-court news from the Celtics 2008 championship team. The players are going to plan a 10-year reunion vacation, and one very important piece to the team's big 3 is not invited. Ray Allen will not be invited on this trip, as many of the team's veterans are reportedly still unhappy that Allen left Boston in 2012 to join the Miami Heat. Rohan, I covered this team back in 2008. This was a very, very close-knit group of guys. To see them splinter like this, you'd think time has passed here. 2012, you're going on 5 years ago that Allen left Boston to go to Miami. Are they being petty with not inviting Ray on this trip?
Yeah, this is just a little immature. I mean, this is so ridiculous. I don't even know what to say about it. Rondo and Ray Allen obviously never gotten along.
Of course.
And it's clear. I think what this reveals, though, is something that maybe we weren't as aware of, is how much the other guys really dislike what Ray did. We know Kevin Garnett wouldn't shake his hand that first game. They played each other as a member of the Heat and Celtics, but it's been so long now. I mean, Ray Allen, he doesn't play for the Miami Heat anymore.
None of them play for the Celtics anymore.
Yes, it's just so...
Garnett's retired. He's on TV 3 times
Pierce
a week.
is heading out the door. Rondo's insignificant. I mean,
they've all played for multiple teams since leaving the Celtics. It really just doesn't make any sense. And
it's envy. It's got to be that Ray Allen, not only did he leave, but he went and won another title. That's got to be it.
I think that definitely plays into it. And I don't think Ray Allen should feel bad about what he did. I mean, first of all, he won another title. Second of all, he hit one of the greatest shots in NBA history. I mean, it worked out great for him. So it's really just a ridiculous situation. I mean, I don't know what it is about these Celtics teams where they're kind of nuts. All of them are just kind of nuts. I mean,
I think Garnett and Pierce are nuts.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
specifically Garnett.
They despised LeBron during that era, the Miami Heat,
it got
Celtics
personal,
rivalry.
which was great. We all won out for that because it was really fun, and it was great to see that really intense rivalry.
Right.
Absolutely, but at some point you got to let it go. Margaritas, banana boat. I mean, can't we all get along?
Sorted out. Rohan, you nailed it on the head, though. Look at who all the quotes are from Rondo. That's where the issue is. Rondo was always tight with Garnett on that team, and the issue was Rondo and Allen. And the only one we're hearing for on the record is Rajon Rondo right now talking about
Oh my
this.
God, Rondo's upset? No
Yeah,
way.
right?
That's
And Scott Pollard. We're forgetting about Scott Pollard, who's also being left out. Poor guy.
Key figure.
Scott Pollard. He goes on Survivor. They shun him. Tell him get out of here. All right. Sweet 16 is set. Rohan, give us some of the best tournament runs that we've seen from NBA stars. Who tops your list?
So these are three guys that came to my mind immediately, and it probably says more about who I enjoy watching in the NBA. So my three, I mean, first of all, I got to put my man Dwayne Wade in there. What he did with Marquette,
Yeah.
I love when guys take kind of unheralded teams. You know, he put Marquette on the map that year. Back in 2003, he had the triple-double against Kentucky. I remember watching him in the tournament, and I was just amazed. That triple-double was incredible. Another guy, Carmelo Anthony, the only title Jim Boeheim has at Syracuse, in large part to Carmelo. I think
Syracuse fans forget that.
Yeah,
There's only that one with Boeheim, right?
I think he had 33 in the first game of the Final Four, then a double-double in the final. So he was outstanding. And then you got to go Steph Curry. I mean, who even knew what Davidson was before Stephen Curry? And I think he had 40 in an opening round game, took him all the way to the Elite Eight. Look at him. Look at how young he looks. I mean, it's ridiculous. That guy was just striking fear into the hearts of opponents.
Maggie, I had a conversation with my sons last night about Steph with Davidson talking. They don't remember him in college. They weren't around back then. They only know him as the Warriors. I said, you should have seen what he did in March Madness, guys. He took a team, a small school, this close to the Final Four, scoring 40 points a game. Yeah. He was phenomenal during that run.
You left two UConn Huskies off of your list with Napier and Kemba Walker, but
Yeah.
we'll let it slide because I like those. Rohan Nadkarni, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Here's a closer look up at that belt, which was stolen from the Roger Maris Museum earlier this morning.
Kobe's Shrine, as it's known here at Lower Merion High School, has been desecrated.
Unbelievable. All right, Ryan, what should the punishment be now for Mauricio Ortega, the editor of La Prensa, who has been fingered by the New York Times as the jersey thief?
I tell you, Mauricio could be in some big trouble because he may be linked to taking Von Miller's helmet from the year before as well. It's all going to come down to what they value this memorabilia as, the helmet, Brady's jersey. But from what I'm reading in an SI article, Texas law states that if Brady's jersey is valued at over $200,000, that Mauricio could be facing 99 years in prison.
Oh, boy.
It's a fifth-degree felony or something like that. Clearly, he's not getting any more media credentials to any Super Bowls, Maggie, so we won't be seeing him in the stadium.
No, I wonder if he's kind of might ruin it for the rest of us. I mean, I'm part of those 2,000 people who are credentialed for the Super Bowl each year. I've been to the last 7. So I'm curious maybe if the rules are going to change about where we're allowed access to and if this has a ripple effect. I've long been in favor of something called sports jail, which I mean only facetiously, but people who, have these really egregious, sports crimes, if you will, should have to go spend time in sports jail. And I think this man should have to go there. And maybe it's not a physical place, but you just have to get put in the corner, so to speak. I mean, maybe he becomes a human tackling dummy from Von Miller. Maybe that teaches him a lesson. Maybe he's the guy designated to give James Harrison all bad news. Something like that could teach him never to do it again.
It may depend on what the Patriots feel, because technically the jersey was the property of the Patriots.
Sure.
The Patriots want to press the charges. Mauricio could find himself in an actual Texas prison. Yeah, scary. How about this? Dancing with the Stars premiered Monday night, and there are 5 athletes competing this season. David Ross, Simone Biles, Nancy Kerrigan, Rashad Jennings, and professional bull rider Bonner Bolton, who I know you follow very closely.
Yes.
Now, Simone got off to a great start. 32 out of 40 in their first round, coming off of a season now, though, where Lori Hernandez was the champion last season. Shawn Johnson has done well on this show and won. What do you think, Maggie? Did gymnasts have an edge? Should they be allowed to compete on Dancing with the Stars?
I'm going to say flat out, no, they should not compete on the show.
Wow,
I'm going to take it one step
really?
further. Take all the figure skaters out, too. I mean, this...
Where do you stop? Take the bull riders out of the show.
Bull rider can stay. I mean, if you are doing a floor routine, winning gold medals on the floor, you're also winning gold medals dancing on the ice. It's harder to dance on the ice than it would be in shoes, don't you think? I mean, you had Meryl Davis, who's an ice dancer. She won. You had Chrissy Yamaguchi. She's won. Nancy Kerrigan on this
Allie
year.
Raceman struggled on the show.
Okay, that's one out of 10. There's got to be an exception to every rule, right? But you can't make your rules on the exception. You have to make them on the majority. The majority of these gymnasts and figure skaters, ice dancers, do incredibly well in the show. I think that they unfairly have an advantage.
They have the advantage of body control, and that's really what it's all about. Athletes
and they
who
dance.
Can flip in the air and move their body the way they do, clearly in the air, they can do that pretty well on the ground, too, and they've shown that on the dance floor.
What do you think? Rashad Jennings, who caught your eye?
You know what caught my eye?
Is there anything that he doesn't do well?
Yeah,
Seriously,
run the football. Yeah, that's what I'm going to get to.
I'm sorry, Rashad.
You set me up, and I know Rashad is a friend of the show, so I don't want to get on him too much. But seeing Rashad's name listed on this show is what shocks me the most, because Rashad, you've rushed for like 3,000 yards in 7 seasons in the NFL. I'm surprised he's on this show, but he's a heck of an athlete. We've seen him. He's in great shape, so he's got some moves. The guy can move, absolutely.
And, I just kind of wonder, Rashad, he's, gracious. He comes on this show. I think maybe he's setting himself up for life after football. He's a free agent right now. Maybe he reads the tea leaves. If Adrian Peterson, Jamal Charles aren't signed, it might be hard for the rest of the crop.
Yeah, you're right. No matter how well he does on the show.
Yeah. I don't know. Ryan, thanks. Appreciate it. Fun stuff. That's going to do it for us on this Tuesday edition. We'll see you tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Enjoy tonight, your Tuesday. Get out there and dance a little bit, right? See you tomorrow. I'd lose in a heartbeat. I'm awful.
Come on.